our grandparents are probably laughing at us right now just because they're like, yeah, that's all we had. That's if you wanted to find a girlfriend, or our grandmothers, if you wanted to find a boyfriend, you had to like do something to catch their attention, or
Right.
go talk over, or
Right.
do
Exactly.
something, like out of your comfort zone to catch their attention just because everybody's doing the normal. Welcome everyone. This is Out of the Box Podcast, where Steve and I, your hosts, get to talk about out of the box ideas. Today, we're gonna be talking about something really interesting. It's gonna be dating. Yeah, I know, right? So one of the things that we kind of wanted to talk about specifically was kind of dissect the topic from different angles, especially now with online dating, how that has transitioned over the past 10 years and how we continue to see dating change over time, and maybe things that we might see in the future. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic. But before we get into it, I want to just let you know, if you like this video, and have seen other videos like this, please leave a like, please write a comment, and subscribe for more information, because we're here to continue talking about outside of box ideas, and hope you can continue to come with us in the journey. So without further ado, Steele, let's kick it off with
All
dating,
right.
right? So maybe let's start off with a interesting or funny story about dating. How
Oh,
about that?
a funny story about
Funny,
dating.
funny story. Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think of like something funny about dating. Like,
Or how about that time when we were sitting in the cafeteria, and then you
uh,
had to go to random girls and just
oh yeah,
start a conversation,
right,
even though
right.
you might have thought they were out of your league.
Oh, okay, I see what
Let's
you're getting
start with
at,
that.
dude. I can think of two instances actually of funny things with that. Yeah, so just to give the audience some context here, me and Jose were put up to the challenge of a social experiment, I guess you could call it, to where we were challenged to, and this is, and keep in mind, this kind of like falls into the line of like self-help in a sense of like trying to boost your own confidence, trying to boost your own self-esteem, challenging yourself, increasing your courage to do things, right? And it's quite common these days that people will try to go up, uh, guys in particular, I guess, go up to women, to try to overcome the approach anxiety. It's a technical term they call it, like approach anxiety, as in you feel anxious about approaching someone that you're attracted to, let's say. So yeah, just to clarify, this is just kind of us trying to, I guess, improve ourselves in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I
yeah,
guess take out the anxiety of it, just
yeah,
say like, hey, we're not really doing it for the actual outcome. We're just
right,
doing it for the process of trying it out,
yeah,
and and to see what would happen, right?
yeah. See what would happen. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like in the cafeteria, like one time we're in the cafe or whatever, and I was told to approach these two girls that were sitting at a table, and of course, I'm not used to this, so I'm like, I don't know. Like like it was like this process in my mind. I was like, I don't want to do this, like, and all these thoughts run through your mind. Like
Yeah.
I was like, what, screw it. I'm just gonna, because it's funny because you can talk the talk and say, oh yeah, it sounds like really easy, right? Like I'm sure some people are watching right now. What the hell are you talking about? Like that sounds like all you do is walk up and sit down and talk. But it's like
Yeah.
when you're actually there in the moment, because I've felt that too. Like, oh come on, man, it's not that hard. But when you're actually there in the moment, you're trying to do it yourself. You find yourself, it's like you're blocked. It's like you don't want to do it. Like I had to physically get myself to stand up and walk over there. And anyways, it's funny. They ended up being really nice and like cool, and they gave me some advice on school stuff that I was going into at the time. And but another time that was funnier was when I was at like a computer lab type setting, and one of my friends told me to to go and talk to this girl and tell her that the Wi-Fi was broken and the internet was broken or something, even though it wasn't. And yeah, so I use that as an excuse to talk to her because I think it makes it easier to have an excuse to go and approach
Hmm.
someone you don't know. And so it's just like a silly kind of excuse. And And, it works, she came over and helped. And she's probably wondering why I didn't ask any of the other people to who are working there to help, you know what I mean? That's just so funny
Yeah.
about it. But it's funny because I was told later by my friend who saw that she knew that the internet, like the Ethernet cable was unplugged. So it's like, but she still kind of kept talking after that. But yeah, it was just small talk, really, just kind of like small talk about the internet being broken and then sneaking in
But
questions.
she looked over. She looked over at my friend, right, or at our
Yeah,
other friend,
yeah,
like she knew like what was going
yeah.
on.
You're right, right.
And she made a face or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
She's like,
it's just yeah, yeah. But she was totally cool about it. Really nice person. I
oh
never saw her
man,
again after that, unfortunately. But yeah,
yeah, but I think it goes to show this social experiment goes to show that sometimes we overthink the actual process of approaching
right.
someone that we think is really attractive, right? And so I think that sometimes goes with our insecurities, right? That we don't want to be rejected, we don't want to be pushed away, and so that I guess some of our previous scar or pains and hurts come back in that moment and just keep reminding us every step that we take forward, like, no, you can't do it, like, why are you doing this, and everything is like pushing back, even though it's just connecting with another human being,
Yeah,
right?
we overthink it.
And so it's overthinking it. They're not gonna become your wife. Maybe they might, but it's just simplifying it to the smallest bit of it. It's just like, I'm gonna go try to have a conversation with the other person. If they really enjoy the conversation, and I enjoy it too, because sometimes we forget about ourselves, that we have to have and enjoy that moment too, not just because they're attractive, but because we also feel accepted, and we really feel like being with that person. But I think that that's something that I think we tried it out just because it pushed us out of our comfort zone, but also what used to be common. I mean, I'm pretty sure our grandparents are probably laughing at us right now, just because they're like, yeah, that's all we had. That's, if you wanted to find a girlfriend, or our grandmothers, if you wanted to find a boyfriend, you had to like do something to catch their attention, or
Right,
go talk over, or
right,
do
exactly.
something, like out of your comfort zone to catch their attention, just because everybody's doing the normal.
Yeah,
And you know I think that that goes to show how how we're transitioning in terms of dating. Now I myself have my girlfriend that I have right now. I found her online, and so you know we can transition into seeing like how that difference has come to be. Because I myself, I'm very traditional, and I've never really wanted to try online dating, just because of the idea of it. I thought it was just very I guess very synthetic. I guess it's not normal, right? It didn't feel normal. But I realized that it gives you an opportunity to filter out faster through you know various profiles, and really match with the people that do have common interests, right? And one of the things that I'll talk about later, after we kind of both discuss the online portion of it, is compatibility, connection, and chemistry. Those are the three words that I wanted to kind of talk about. Because sometimes that gets confused. Like, oh, we're compatible, we're so compatible, but sometimes they don't have connection.
yes,
Or they
yeah,
they
yeah,
have some great chemistry,
right,
but football players or basketball players have good chemistry with their teammates, but they don't have to like each other,
right.
right?
There's a
Work well with
difference.
each other.
Is what, yeah,
And so it's really connection that is the main
yeah.
part.
That's
So
extremely important. I've actually, it's funny. I get those. I've had two situations of that play out, vice versa. in terms of compatibility and connection. There's been girls that I was compatible with, but I didn't feel a connection to. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel it. But then there were some girls in my life in the past where I felt a connection to. However, our compatibility was different. It could be
and I
compatibility in
and I
terms
like
of
what you said.
belief.
It's like you
Yeah,
said it. It was like I didn't feel it, right?
yeah,
Because for some people, it's very logical. Like, oh yes, they like video games, they like soccer, they like to eat fries. It's perfect, right?
right.
But then they don't take into account, everything that comes with a human being, right? The emotional component, the spiritual component. And so, that logistical side of, of like, oh yeah, we're compatible. Well, that doesn't always meet everything, right?
Yeah,
And so sorry
not
to cut you
everything.
off. Yeah, you were
No, no,
saying.
you're good. Yeah, no, you're right. It's not everything. Because like I was saying, like you can like I could have like a connection, or no, I could have a compatibility with someone. Or actually, wait, let me take that back. Let's say I feel a connection with someone, but our beliefs don't match. Like fundamental beliefs that would affect the way in the future if we were to raise children, right? Or something like that, that would create a lot of conflict going forward. And even there's even studies and I think statistics that show, and I'm not saying every person on earth, but a fair amount, enough to where it's significant, I think, to where people ended up having conflicts in their relationship later on because they didn't have the same beliefs, the same core beliefs about certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would argue that maybe that's probably chemistry. Y'all got together well because I think true connection, even with your differences, a true connection will oversee the, the things that you lack within, each other, right?
Yeah. And obviously
So
you don't
a
have
true
to,
connection
match
will.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not everything gonna be like the same, but
Yeah. I'm
with a
just
true
talking about
connection,
core.
you're
Yeah.
gonna be able to work things out, and work things out, sometimes feels almost like chemistry. But with a true connection, the fact that you maybe don't like small dogs, but the other person loves small dogs, but you really connect with the other person that it doesn't really affect you. It almost like a true connection, it's there or it's not,
Yeah.
it can't be created like chemistry, you know it can't be developed like compatibility. It's either there or not. And so that's one of the true really cool things about connection that I think sometimes we kind of oversee
Right.
in relationships.
Yeah. I mean, and I can vouch for, however, on the other side of things, like having a connection, but then I just couldn't go through with it, or I just didn't want to get into something serious when I knew that a conflict could arise later on, because ideally I'm looking for marriage, I'm looking for a long-term relationship that could potentially lead to children in the future. That's just what I'm personally looking for in my life. And so keeping that in the back of my mind, you know, I could have a connection, but if certain beliefs don't match, like let's just say like religion, I guess, logically speaking, like philosophically speaking, how am I going to raise my children without conflicts? That's going to be pretty hard if you ask me. Now, I know some other people disagree and they think that it's fine that someone who doesn't believe in God or even people of different religions can marry and still have kids. And I'm not saying it hasn't worked in the past for other people. I don't know. For me personally, I guess maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I mean that could be definitely, those boundaries that you can say, like, we can go as far as this, right? And I think that's really healthy to know about yourself, right? And one of the practices that one of my mentors had me do, Marcy,
yeah,
she was one of our mentors, both of us, and she had me write down everything that I wanted to see in a girl, right? What does she do? How does she think? How does she react to things? Just started writing down things. And so I think what that helps to do, and even maybe write a paragraph about how you imagine, your future spouse to be, right? I think that really clarifies, right? So that whenever you start meeting people, you don't waste your time on saying like, oh, but I just, there's something about them. It's like, all right, do they meet the criteria that I set for what I want to see carried out in my life? If
Right.
not, then, let's not waste time here, right? Because your
Yeah.
time is valuable,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm.
know and that time that you're using with other people, you could be using with the right person, right? That eventually does match your what you want. And
Right.
not
Exactly.
everyone's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone's gonna find like exactly like where has
Yeah.
purple
Yeah.
hair
Yeah.
and loves
Yeah.
rock and
No,
can
that
play the
I'm
harmonica,
I'm
that.
really glad you're bringing that up because that, bro, really reminds me of an important point that someone in the mental health field told me about one time. They told me that you're reaching a certain level of maturity in your life, talking about my experiences that I was talking to them about, that where you're no longer looking for superficial things like physical attractiveness of a girl, or stuff like that. You're starting to get to this phase of your life where you're actually looking for that list that you're talking about, those key things you're looking for in the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And now, because of that, you're starting to make choices and you're starting to decide, okay, well, I'm attracted to this girl, but she's not for me because she doesn't fit these criteria. And I think it's like shows the maturation, like when you leave that adolescent phase and going into adulthood and realizing what you want, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, of course, then you realize, yeah, it matters, and going off of that, I'm not saying, like you were saying, kind of hinting at before, you don't have to have this perfect list of the highest expectations on earth, because that will get you nowhere. You're never going to find the perfect person. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, it's just really analyzing yourself as well. Because one of the problems I have, with you know friends that have told me, like, they told me like, hey, how do you have a girlfriend and I don't, right? And I think that that approach, the fact that it's maybe like a blind spot. I think when you're your true self, you know that eventually will attract the person that you want to come in your life.
Right.
But it's also setting up goals for yourself. If you say you want a girl that is fit, and are you working out as well, right? Because
Yeah.
when she comes over, maybe the right person does come into your life, and you want them to be fit, everything, but you yourself are not working on building yourself. Then when that person comes into your life, they're just going to leave because they didn't match the values that you sought out for. You attract what you are, right? And so a lot of people are like, oh, I just keep getting these weird girls or getting these weird guys. Well, what are you doing from your side to work on yourself, right?
Yeah.
And because people look for what they are themselves. That's why we buy things, right? That's why we buy Nikes, because it represents who we are. Or buy, like we were talking about, buy hot toys or buy NFTs or buy certain clothes, because it represents who we are as a person. And so the same thing goes with attracting relationships, whether that be romantic or friendships. We attract friends and people into our life of who we are. And so whenever you start to change, right, and you start, let's say, for example, you start reading it, or you start growing yourself, people will notice that and will start to question you, like, why are you doing this? Like, I thought you were, a friend. Like, why aren't you going out anymore? And that sort of thing. I think people notice that change, and the people who really love you will stay, and the people who don't will leave. But I think it's really being your true self, as long as, but I think I would add to that, your true self growing to the person that you want to be, right?
Mhm.
Because eventually, your partner will see like, oh wow, this person is really growing in themselves. They really have aspirations, or they they match in this area, or maybe and sometimes it doesn't have to be big goals. Maybe it's just finding a good career, or, landing a specific job, or doing something that you love. I think people are driven, who are passion driven, are easier to find relationships, and also romantic relationships, just because they're full of life and they're full to give back, right? Because in a relationship, you have to give. And also, I mean, you receive. But when both people are giving at the same time passionately, I think that just adds to the excitement, the love, the expectations, and the adventure that is to come with the relationship, right?
Yeah, definitely, dude. My final thought, my final word, I guess, would be relationships. From what I'm gathering, you're saying are like a balancing act. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, to summarize it all, I mean, it's really comes down to being self-aware of who you are, right? And noticing if there is a connection with the other person in the first place. Really analyzing who you want to look for. And I think that will solve a lot of things that, we're seeing, jumping into marriage too quick, or
Right.
having kids too quick. And
Exactly, dude. And we could definitely do that on another pod. Like, dude, I'd love to talk with you about that even. That's a really good idea. That brings up all these other ideas. And we could do a whole podcast on like maybe like problems or struggles people are facing today with
Mhm.
dating.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you really like this topic and would like for us to talk about more outside of box ideas within dating, please feel free to leave a comment down below. We love to hear what you have to say. Also, feel free to like and subscribe to our channel for more information. And until next time, Venice.
All right.